Hi, and welcome back from spring break. I hope everybody had a good time. I had a pretty busy spring break, and I'm scrambling just a little bit to get everything up and running for the second half of the semester. But I think I've got enough on the site to get us started, and I'll certainly continue to update and tweak things as we go along. But I think we're pretty much ready to go. I want to first start by just reviewing the assignments, and then go over the schedule quickly and talk about a few themes that I think are going to emerge in this second half of the semester. And then I'll stop it there and we'll get rolling again. So assignments, I just want to remind you that under the blogging and slogging, there is a second half, a part 2 down here, part 2 project time, 100 points. So first half was worth 200 points, second half it's worth 100 points. The 100 points that you'll be working on during the second half will really be your personal blogging and slogging, not the work that you do for your organization. That'll be covered under the other assignment. So 100 points, I'm going to ask you to write a memo at the end of the semester. It's not due until the very end, May 13th. I think it's on here somewhere. I got May 11th, sorry, Friday, May 11th for that one. I'm going to ask for the review and final exam on the 13th. So towards the end of that exam week, it certainly can be done before then. So similar, but a little less commitment in the first half. I want to remind you with the additional chapter that you do have an opportunity to revise. Again, I put down March 11th. You're going to see that I probably messed up a few dates here. I think I've put elsewhere that May 13th would be fine. Certainly this is something though that you might want to consider doing right off the bat. One of the best times to do the revision might be in this first week coming up while the paper is still fresh in your mind. That said, you might also have a lot of other things going on as you get back into the swing of things and you need to do it later. But definitely look for an opening in your schedule if you do want to revise, and come back here, refresh yourself on the assignment and on my chapter or my suggestions, and make the revisions that you can for that particular paper. Also, I'd be very happy to meet with any of you and talk through my suggestions. The core of the second half is obviously going to be the service learning assignment, the network nonprofit assignment, where I could go through it in great detail, but I hope it's pretty straightforward. I hope you can read through this and ask any questions where there isn't clarification or there isn't a clear sense of what you need to do. Essentially breaks down into one, you're going to start with trying to find an organization, and I've got a list here, possible organizations that you can work with, and I've linked specifically the first half is to organizations that I have had contact with and know about the assignment. The second half are other organizations that came to the NDSU nonprofit fair back in January, and so they are generally looking for help. You can also bring to this organizations that you're familiar with, clubs that you're familiar with, and work with them. But I'm suggesting early on you identify that organization, pair up, or work in groups of 3. I have suggested it could be as big as 4, but I think the way the class has shaken out, I think probably 2s and 3s is the way to go. First week is getting organized with your partners in your organization, contacting that organization, doing the reading and research necessary to write up the assessment plan, getting that done in the 3rd week, and communicating it to them. And then after that, April 9th to 29th, then that's just enacting the plan that you've come up with. Now those are all just guidelines. It's going to depend on the nature of the organization that you work with as to how quickly things move. It's going to depend on your teammates to a certain extent, to also depend on the pace of things. So there's the details there. I'm going to also try over here in the resource pages to put up a few more documents and suggestions that can be helpful for you. Essentially, we're doing professional writing the second half of the semester. I've talked about things like generating task lists, and I'm going to put up a page here. This is where I'm scrambling a little bit and a little behind. I'll put up a page that will give you an idea how to do a task list, how to do an assessment and strategic planning document, things like that. So I'll try to get those up as soon as possible. But this is the big chunk of the work, and it's going to split. The 300 points is splitting into 2. First part is that assessment and strategic planning document. The second part is actually following through on that. The third main document down here under the deliverables is you're going to write a project and performance assessment of yourself and your team and how things went at the end. That document isn't going to be worth any points, but like with the blogging and slogging memos, I'm going to ask you to score yourself on the work. It's going to be hard for me to track all of the work that all of you do with your organizations because it could be sort of all over the web. I'll certainly do the best I can, but I'm going to give you a chance to reflect on how well you did and how well your team worked. Do remember that part of this assignment is not just about trying out tools and introducing tools to your organizations, but it's also about learning how to collaborate effectively with some of these tools. The book you're going to read does a nice job of talking about conversation starters, collaboration tools, and network builders. And so that'll give you a little different take on the tools that we're using, and hopefully will be interesting, an interesting way to rethink some of the different tools that we've looked at. I made one major revision to the course over spring break. Is that I originally had a book review assignment and a final exam assignment, and all of those were going to come due in the last week, same as your blogging and slogging. I just thought that's too many little documents. So what I've done is I've combined the book review and the final exam. And I think this makes a lot of sense. I'm going to ask you to review the 2 books that we've used in this semester, and then do 3 things with them that function more like a final exam or similar to a final exam, as well as a review. The first item listed here is a short list of key ideas you've learned from each book, and by a short list I'm talking about maybe 5 items. It could be more than that. It doesn't have to be a magic number. You could favor one book over the other. You maybe only got 1 thing out of one book and 4 things out of the other. Or you certainly could get ambitious and do something more like 3 and 3 or 4 and 4. But essentially identifying some of the things that you've learned. If you really feel like those books were not effective for you, try to articulate why, and then that's going to feed into the recommendations whether I should or shouldn't use these books again. Final suggestion, this is the hardest thing, is whether you've got other books that you think, or readings you think that I should incorporate in the class. And I've listed some. This is new to this page if you looked at it before, just some other books. Over the break I was made aware of Howard Rheingold's Net Smart, and then that got me thinking about all the other good books that are out there along the same lines that I could be using. Clay Shirky's books. Certainly there's Social Media for Social Good, which I'm going to ask you to read a chapter from, and Forces for Good. So there's a lot of reading material. I'm just interested in getting your sense of how well these 2 books worked and what else might be useful. So those are the assignments. The schedule I've presented in a little bit different format. I probably need to clean this up a little bit more, but I thought I should get it up. I think the information is here. But I've just done 1 page this time instead of 1 for each week, so you can see from week 10 through to week 11, keep getting the wrong selection item here, week 12 all the way down, and I've tried to be consistent with each one. Goals, what it is that you need to read for that week, some ideas for blogging and slogging. These are really more prompts, ideas. You're certainly welcome to do additional things, different things, whatever's making sense for you during that week. This is a 400 level course. I don't try to control every move that you make. And then I added one called Interact, to just give you some ideas about how I think you should be interacting with your organization and your teammates on a week-by-week basis, because sometimes that's going to be really important. Other times when I get down here near the end, keep it in touch with partners and organization is all I've got down here. You can tell I was running out of a little bit of steam towards the end, so I'll probably need to flesh those ones out a little bit more, but again, I think they'll give you a pretty good idea of what we're covering over the next 7 weeks. I do think it might be a little less intense than the first half, but not a heck of a lot. I don't know if that's good or bad news for you. I think it's going to be interesting. There's certainly lots of variables are going to come into play working with organizations, but I hope everything goes smoothly for you, and certainly I'll be happy to work with you and your organization whenever necessary. So that's the schedule. Just a few things that I wanted to highlight, what I think you're going to see as themes for the semester. And these aren't anyways where I need to zoom out. Maybe I'll figure out how to go to just me talking at this point. But the themes I think are going to emerge are, first one is going to be visual storytelling. I think you're going to see that concept come up quite frequently throughout the readings and throughout finding material on the web, paying attention to what other people are saying about how nonprofits or small businesses or organizations use the internet. And the big concept, or a central concept these days, is visual storytelling, that the web is a visual medium and text-heavy web pages aren't necessarily going to do the trick anymore. The book talks a lot about free agents right off the bat, and so that's going to be an interesting concept to get your head around about who the free agents are. The free agents might be you, but they might also be other people, might be your friends, your network, and talking about how organizations need to be able to work with those free agents. So definitely pay attention to that as it comes up. I already mentioned that I think the book does a nice job with sorting out the tools into different categories. You're gonna see a Web 1.0, 2.0, 3.0 when you read the PDF from Social Good or Social Media for Social Good, but Network Nonprofit talks about conversation starters, talks about collaboration tools and about network builders, and I think that's an interesting concept to try to hold on to and a theme that you're going to see throughout. Two other ones are going to be return on investment, just how much time should you put into your web presence and the different tools that are out there. We've already seen how many there are, and then we barely scratched the surface. So you're going to need to think carefully about that for your organization and understand your organization's willingness to do this kind of work and where they're going to get their return on investment. And then the second closely related theme is sustainability. You could come up with a great, exciting plan, pulling on multiple tools, but when you leave after 3 weeks, is the organization going to be able to maintain it? Do they have a volunteer? Would you be willing to be that volunteer who would stay on and keep the plan going? And if so, would you be able to sustain the plan or the setup that you've established for that organization? So return on investment and sustainability are going to be really important things to think about in your strategic plan, and I think you're going to see that coming up in the readings and in your more general surfing of the web or listening into Twitter conversations about nonprofit work. All right, I'm going to stop there. And then I'm going to keep working on refining a few things on the website. I'll certainly answer any email questions that you have. I look forward to meeting with any of you over the course of the semester whenever you want to stop in. And I hope the second half goes well for you.